Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to IESF as we are in the Asian Regional Qualifiers, day number 3, and we are heading into match number 2 as we were able to witness a 2-0 victory from Indonesia in the early stage of the day for match number 1. But now we are moving forward to our second match of the day, Cambodia versus Thailand, and whoever wins this should be able to make it to the playoffs for them to eventually go onto their road to Riyadh.
Welcome to this match. I'm sorry, I got kind of like, spooked there. Is that Eternal with glasses? This is the first time ever that I'm seeing this, by the way. So, yeah, okay, Eternal. But yeah, amazing fight that we have here, obviously, for the next slot in the playoffs for Group A. Because for Group B, we've already confirmed the two teams. Indonesia with the win up against Vietnam. They've been able to just secure that victory, and now they are in the playoffs with Malaysia. Grouped in, later on, I think you will be able to see the brackets as well. If you guys want to see the updated results, IESF.gg. Go ahead also for you guys to check out Group A, because this match is going to be a super high-stake match. It'll be Cambodia possibly securing their playoff slot, and also for Thailand to have the chance to do the same. Thailand are standing at 2-0, Cambodia are standing at 2-1.
And with that, with them being doubled and tied in, we are going to see a very intense match and a very big deciding match between both of these teams to see who will be able to qualify, because so far we've had a little bit of a taste for Cambodia as we were able to see them on day 2 yesterday going head-to-head. But for Thailand, we haven't really seen a match from them, especially being streamed in, as most of their matches have been done offline. So finally we get to head and see a little bit more of what Thailand and their gameplay has to say, especially going head-to-head against Cambodia, who has done quite well so far here at IESF in the Asian Regional Qualifiers.
It's unfortunate that they weren't able to beat Myanmar, right? But they were able to get it so close. It was 2-1 in favor of Myanmar. So they were able to take a game off of Myanmar. It was even a close game in game number 3. Very climactic. I'm expecting Cambodia to actually get the job done here up against Thailand, with them having much more experience compared to Thailand, especially in the international scene. I think we're no stranger to this lineup, Eterna, for Cambodia. We've seen See You Soon for a long time, but maybe here one of the concerns for a lot of the fans is the fact that for See You Soon, they've been playing with 2 imports for the longest time. How are they going to adapt with the rest? I think yesterday that's why they kind of suffered against Myanmar, but now they should have already adjusted and adapted properly to their full Cambodian lineup.
I mean, technically, that's kind of the same concern that we saw from Indonesia, right? With the full Onyx roster, they didn't have Kyrie in the jungle, and so Albert had to step in for a full Indonesian lineup. Sure, we did see them kind of fail against Malaysia, I think, to a lot of the hatred of a lot of Indonesian fans, and of course the disappointment of the Indonesian fans. But today, right, against Vietnam, they really pulled through. They won very convincingly, very dominantly, with even Albert in the jungle picking up a maniac in almost a 10-minute game. It was 9 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So perhaps we're going to see the exact same dominance coming through from this team, as we are going to take a look at the official team lineup here for Cambodia. We have Ra, Lucas, Boxy, Felix, and Run. And these are kind of familiar names already, right? We've seen Ra before in the mid lane, and a couple of the other members as well, Mirko.
Yeah, for Ra, Lucas, Boxy, Felix, and Run, I think mainly it's Felix, Boxy, and Ra that have the spotlight on them in MPL Cambodia. They have been able to go through quite a lot, I think, in this regular season, at least for MPL Cambodia, right? Because I think in the regular season, it looked like this lineup was really struggling. It looked like they were not going to make it to playoffs even. A lot of fans, a lot of analysts predicted them not to make it to playoffs, but they were eventually able to do so, and now they are, again, representing their country, not only later on in MSC, but here at IESF. And what of a better way than to start things off by going full aggressive mode, right? Because even up against Myanmar, the one win they got in game number 2 was through the early game. If they get that early game snowball, they're a team that just completely dominates their opposition.
So we're also going to take a look now at Thailand's official team lineup, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I do not pronounce these names properly. We have Mizi Mink, Lord Flash, 007, Nile, Easy, and 3333. Is that a double 33? I think from the last player here in the official team lineup for Thailand.
33.
Third, yeah, three. That's gonna be a tongue twister for Mirko to do the play-by-play later on.
33. I'll just call him 33.
Okay, deal, 33. And I think Thailand has quite a similar playstyle. I mean, probably from different players and of course different teams, but from what we've seen from Thailand is they're also quite aggressive in their playstyle, right? And with the meta shifting so heavily and dominantly in the early stage of the game, we're gonna see a clash of playstyles, of course, unless we see a different layer of Cambodia. I think the last match that they played in against Myanmar, you were expecting a little bit more of that early game threat from Cambodia, and instead they're kind of playing towards that late game. So maybe those kinds of adjustments is exactly what Cambodia needs to go head to head against Thailand later on.
I hope that's exactly what we get to see in the drafts now, because the Roger has been such a core member in that early aggression for Cambodia. They decided to ban it out straight off the bat here on the blue side. So already very, very interesting. Usually Cambodia want to leave that Roger open so that they can first pick it themselves on blue side. But for Thailand, they're going to get rid of the Ling. Already pure respect so far based on the banning phase, at least at the start. Something that we're not really accustomed to. Usually it's the blue side that go for more of a respect ban, and it's the red side that goes for more prio. Maybe they're just going to try to look for the trades on these big picks later on in the drafts. Maybe go for the trade Lo Yi as well. Alright, so we were talking actually off cam about how the Lo Yi hasn't really been finding a lot of success. I want to add one more hero into that not finding a lot of success category, which is the Chip. The Chip was super broken for the longest time ever. It was prioed every single region, but now we're seeing it get left open a lot. And even when it does get left open, we don't see the big impact on it anymore. We don't see that early snowball going as crazy as it did before.
I mean, that's kind of what we thought about the Luo Yi, right? And then Indonesia came and picked it up in the second game of that first match that we saw earlier against Vietnam, and they were able to kind of slaughter and snowball with the Luo Yi. So maybe we're going to see kind of a similar thing with the Chip. We do see that it still does get banned out here in the first phase. And I mean, technically the Chip didn't have any adjustments in the recent patch, right? Is it to do with the items?
I think so. I think it might be because of some of these items, and because some of these utility picks have just become stronger. I think that Angela has been a very, very good pick, and that's why we're going to get to see it as well. Banned out by Cambodia. Angela is probably the most prio pick in the game, maybe with the Roger. It's like contested that much. Especially if you let the Ling open, right? If you get that Angeling combo, usually we see, even before the patch, that it's already like at a very high win rate once you get the Angeling. Now that the Sky Piercer is built in as well, some of these assassins can go for even crazier fights with the War Cry. Yeah, the Angela becomes super prio, but it seems it's still going to be that Harith that will be banned out. Leaving a couple of picks open here. I don't know what Cambodia want to go for. They actually first pick the Claude. Oh, early, okay.
All right, that's actually quite interesting, right? Because if we're talking about the gold lane, I think off stream as well, we had a little bit of a discussion about the gold lane, how it feels like a lot of these teams and a lot of these players are still experimenting as to the priorities in that particular lane. Obviously, the Roger is one of the biggest highlights, but of course, the Roger was banned already. So I think they're going to go for a Claude here in the first phase of the drafts. I mean, technically, the Claude is quite a safe pick, right? I mean, it does quite well in the early stage of the game. As compared to maybe the Moscovs, right, of the game. But of course, when it comes down to the later parts, they're also still very impactful in these team fights, especially when it comes down to already taking in those important items in the Claude's kit to dish out that damage. But Thailand will respond quite quickly here with a Matilda and a Charizla. One of the two priorities in that lane as well, right? With the Matilda just really amping up in terms of priority, and so has the Charizla along with the Yuzong. The Charizla, again, still a very great utility tool to, you know, hash out in these particular team fights. In the laning phase, it doesn't do as bad as well. But do you think perhaps Cambodia wants to go for something of a counter towards the Charizla? Is an Xborg still good against the Charizla in lane is a big question.
Yeah, actually, the Xborg has been finding a whole lot of success here in the current patch, I think. The fact that you get the War Axe, and it technically is already a War Axe and a Bloodlust Axe. Two items that you could utilize really, really well. That's also technically why, though, we get to see the Charizla a whole lot. But this is the more natural pick up against the Charizla. Not in lane. Like, in lane, you actually don't bully the Charizla. It's more of a 50-50, but the Charizla does have a little bit of an advantage early on. Yuzong would just want to try to survive the laning phase to go and look for those those fights around the turtle. But same idea with the Yuzong, right? You get so much more value with the new revamped War Axe, and it seems it's also going to be the Valentina to try to steal away that penalty zone or even that circling eagle, depending on the moment. For both drafts, understandably for now, it's kind of like reactive actually for Cambodia, and for Thailand, it's more of that proactive, prio-centric draft that they're going for. Last pick in the first phase, and they're going to go pick up that Moskov global presence, one of the global presence heroes that still actually finds a whole lot of success with the Angela, because as we said before, low Yi chip, there's something with these global presence heroes and them just not being as strong as they were before. And to a certain extent, it also applies to Moskov. He isn't as strong as before. His early game has kind of fallen off a bit. Even his mid-game power spike is not as crazy as it was before, but the fact that you can participate in all these early team fights is still an advantage that you can utilize. And it seems we get the respect ban there, an Odette ban coming in from Cambodia towards Thailand. We haven't seen Thailand at all, but maybe that's how they've been able to get some dubs.
Yeah, maybe they've done their homework, right? Because Odette is definitely not a pick that we see quite often in the mid lane. Usually we see the Valentinas, the Novarias. A lot of Feramis's has actually been picked up recently after the patch, but the Odette, very interesting. I mean, technically, it still can be utilized really good potential in these team fights with the AoE damage. And then we go for a Fanny ban here from the side of Cambodia, followed in with an Edith takeaway. So with this current composition, now Thailand does have first pick. They've already picked up the Moskov, the Terizla, as well as a Matilda. So we're lacking in the jungle as well as that mid lane. Assuming, of course, this Matilda is going to the roam. For the mid laners, what do you think will pop up here? Vexana? I guess Vexana is still an option if they still want to prioritize these team fights.
That's true, but if I'm looking at Thailand's games here, they're actually... Alright, I was about to say that they actually have been playing a whole lot of the Valentina. Maybe that's why it's going to be denied away from them in the first phase, but they go ahead and go for the Kadita pick, which is usually something we expect from Indonesia, right? I think for Thailand as well, this is going to be the first time ever that we get to see the pick on Kadita for them. Yeah, it was Xavier once, and then he played the Angela and the Valentina twice. So a debut pick on this Kadita for Thailand, as we get to see the response now from Cambodia. You know, early on, I think, again, off stream, we were talking about our expectations for this match. We expected Thailand to be the ones to go for aggression. Okay, they do. They finished off the draft with a whole lot of aggression. I was about to say, the Valentina, the Yuzong, and the Claude, it's aggression, but it's not like, it's not Thailand level of aggression, at least from the first 4 picks. But then they ended up with a Hayabusa and the Cho, a signature pick for Boxy. And now I really wonder how Tuzu is going to play in the jungle, because I believe that is also a substitute. We were expecting Lucas to play for Cambodia. Now that it's Tuzu, maybe he's just more comfortable on the assassins. Maybe that's why we get to see the Hayabusa.
We've seen the Hayabusa pop in. I think with Indonesia, Albert picking up the Hayabusa, it didn't do too well. Like, despite the changes to the Hayabusa, despite the, I would even consider it being like a buff to the Hayabusa, right? But it hasn't really found much success. We'll see how it does, because of course one sample isn't enough. And I'm excited to see whether or not this works out. And as well, with the Cho being picked up, the Cho has also been adjusted, right? That damage is a lot higher. So will we be seeing a Cho damage or a Cho more defensive, a Cho tank in this roam position? Because of the changes and the adjustments to the Cho, it's very likely that they would go for a little bit more damage, right? It's a little bit more worth it for the Cho to go damage. So an assassin Cho.
Ooh, I mean, we did technically see that as roam as well in Indonesia, right? With the lethal ignition as well. Shout outs to Drian. But it seems we're just gonna head on to the game first, Eterna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Game 1 in this best of 3. The deciding match of who will be able to step forward to the playoffs from the group stage, as they are inching closer and closer to get to Riyadh for WEC. But as you can see here, taking a look at the emblems, right? Still concussive blast for the Cho. So assuming that they're gonna go for a little bit more defense and utility for this Cho instead of the damage. But by the way, that was the last pick, Martis in the jungle. I'm actually excited to see whether or not this works out.
All right, that Martis pick in the early game is going to be really good, but you can already see that damage from the Cho. That passive doing work already. Now there's a little bit of physical defense shred built in for the Cho. So it actually makes sense to combo it together with an assassin. Right, we were talking about the adjustments. I think the main adjustment has got to be that Jeet Kune Do now getting more range, and also the passive that you can actually see now. There's an indicator where the mana is supposed to be. Usually that's just empty for the Cho because he doesn't use mana, but now we get to see exactly how he can utilize that early damage on towards Nile and Mizzy Mink, forcing them to move back already. Ra and Boxy winning out this mid duel so well.
I mean, you would think, right, with the Matilda as well as the Kadita, that they would have a little bit more mid-trio prio when it comes down to the mid lane. But how much damage that the Cho is actually doing up until this point has really been able to help Cambodia in their rotations. And as you can see here, you can see a rotation coming through from Lord Flash in the top lane, going to be able to get in that jungle creep. But for the most part, right, I think now though, Thailand wants to go in for the contest of the damage. Doesn't get that much yet, as both of these teams are going to start setting up for the next neutral objective, which is that turtle.
Yeah, and the fact that Mizzy Mink actually already used the Petrify is a bit concerning. Boxy was able to Shunpu out of that, gets the Jeet Kune Do, that passive again, getting it procced down, but Lord Flash is already first onto the turtle, doing it so fast with the Impure Rage, doing some damage. Tuzu walking up, and it goes for the Retribution, but it's still gonna be Lord Flash who picks it up, now with the Mortal Coil, looking for one last Whoa, he actually went in a bit too early there, and Felix won't really be able to fully go for it. Mistargeting for Lord Flash. I think he was going for Boxy, but was unable to go for a Jeet Kune Do flicker combo right into Felix. Now is that's gonna be the Breath of the Ocean, used up penalty zone, connecting onto Felix, only onto Felix, as Nile gets the guiding win to bring his XP laner back to safety.
That was a really great disengage though from Thailand, right? They were, focusing on to the objectives. There was a re-engage coming in from Cambodia, and then they went in for another re-engage from the side of Thailand to perhaps look for a little bit more after that neutral objective take. But at the end, there was no trade-in coming in from Cambodia. So in the first 3 minutes, we do see that Thailand is holding a little bit more control, especially after that neutral objective take. Now looking at the items, we do see a lot of warrior boots being built in. They are going to be respecting in that physical damage coming through, especially if we take, a little bit of a teleportation into the gold lane. But that looks like is that a Sky Piercer being built in?
Does seem like that is. That's the first item, Sky Piercer for the Martis, and you can see the damage coming in from the Breath of the Ocean into the rough waves. Mizzy Mink able to punish Boxy, who was way too overextended there on the Cho.
And it looks like Lord Flash is going to be picking up a neutral, an XP lead for that neutral objective contest. And again, right, the Hayabusa, a hero that we thought would have a little bit more kill pressure, especially for the past times that we've seen this Hayabusa being played in. We haven't really seen the impact of this Hayabusa, still sitting at a 000 KDA in terms of neutral objective take, going to be falling far behind Lord Flash on the Martis. So we have kind of yet to see the advantage of picking up this Hayabusa despite the hypes coming in, especially after the changes into the patch. But now both teams going to be centering once again on this neutral objective. It looks like a corrosion scythe has been built in by the Claude. Will he be able to participate and have a little bit more say in the damage given? As, oh, look at that.
Again, a good catch onto Boxy. They use the Decimate too, though, so two big ultimates going to be used up as Nile's going to be taken down. The Decimate stolen away by Ra. Now going for it again. One last execute should get him, but now it's going to be the Mortal Coil used up once again. Now Run the King able to escape as the Furious Dive goes into the back, and Lord Flash is able to get a trade off. Spirit Destruction connecting onto Felix, but now it does seem like at least for IZ, he's just gonna prioritize the turret up top. Cambodia getting some kills, but losing out on some big shots onto the turret shield. IZ, good rotation.
3-for-2 trade, right, for Cambodia. So they are clapping back here in the first 5 minutes of the game. It looks like Boxing going to be able to give some vision as well as information for their team as to the whereabouts of Nile on the Matilda. But we are going to take a look at the replay of what happened earlier on, because initially it was a great call coming through, right? But they did have to burn in a lot of the resources, right? And so Cambodia, they were able to capitalize over that. But I think in the early stage of the game, with how things are progressing, that mid power spike coming in from Thailand is coming through. Tuzu finally being able to have a little bit more say in that team fight, dishing out that damage, but Lord Flash is actually able to pick off Run the King in the gold lane. Meanwhile,
around a turtle, it's going to be Cambodia who secures the neutral objective. But take a look at IZ, that veterancy from this player, as a purple buff gets stolen away as well by Lord Flash. 007. Maybe that's why we get to see the 007. He's an absolute spy, just invading the enemy jungle, not letting Cambodia get any free trades around the map. But so far, it's still a 300 gold lead actually held down by Cambodia. I do want to leave a fun fact out there, by the way, for the people who are actually watching, who've been watching MLBB for the longest time. I just noticed, you know, for Thailand, wait, there's a little bit of a skirmish up top with the quad shadow and the shadow kill. IZ is gonna be next to the chopping blocks. They go for the assassination under the turret. Run the King, getting the last hit down as Tuzu goes and pops that quad shadow back towards safety, towards his own jungle. 33 and Felix going at it in the bottom side of the map now. Felix actually winning it out just with the passive there. And it seems for Ra, he's looking for another skirmish. Petrifying the Furious Dive committed down, but 33 is able to flicker out. Another fight up top is that going to way the dragon onto Mizi Mink, but he is still able to survive. Tuzu, quad shadow again onto Lord Flash. Okay, both of them disengage. Shoutouts to IZ because he's an MSC champion, actually. Boxy again, way the dragon, knocking Nile down, has the guiding wind. The Spirit of Destruction connects, and IZ will not take it. Man, all right.
That's going to be it. It does look like Cambodia is going to be able to get a little bit of a trade here at the bottom side of the map, picking up that turret to go for that 1v1 equalizer in the, of course, turrets and as well as the structures. But finally we get to see the damage coming through from Tuzu, right? I think initially I was wondering what this Hayabusa game plan was, because technically neutral objective take should be more in favor, but wait a second.
Good G Kundo right into the Decimate. Ra again, constantly stealing the Decimate. And now the quad shadow follows IZ back with the shadow kill. IZ gets the help needed, but still it's going to be Tuzu who survives that onslaught of damage. Boxy with the way of the dragon, just bringing Lord Flash all the way to the back. No follow-up now, but Felix wants to go for the dive, it seems. Gets a few shots from the turret and will be forced back. Boxy on the show again. Now looking for the flank on the 33. Gets hit by the hammer. The penalty zone will be able to connect on the Felix, but he can just use the Furious Dive defensively as Lord Flash gets poked back. Tuzu. All that was a distraction, turns out, from Cambodia to get Tuzu free space to get the turtle.
And that's a level lead now. And so the entirety has kind of shifted back over onto Cambodia, right? Because in the early few minutes of the game, Thailand was the one holding a little bit more pressure when it came down to these neutral objective fights, the rotations, and of course the dominance over the map. But Cambodia, they are fighting back, and they're fighting back hard with Run the King on the Claude, already picking up another structure in the top side, and it looks like that wave is still crashing in favor of Cambodia. They really do need to think about housekeeping now for Thailand, as boxing over and over.
Ooh.
Wait a minute.
Good Purify out by Run the King as he pops in place into when the Decimate follows through, and Boxy will be decimated now. It's going to be Run the King that falls as well. A good double kill by Lord Flash as he uses that Decimate really well. But the Black Dragon form now is going to be used up by Felix. Almost taken down from the skies. IZ taking a whole lot of damage as Tuzu just tries to hover over. But again, before I was interrupted by these fights, right? These amazing fights, I wanted to say that IZ is an MSC champion. 2017 back in for Thailand for IDNS. So the fact that he's still playing and still representing Thailand is just crazy, man. Veteran. We got an absolute veteran here.
And that experience and that knowledge should be able to get into his gameplay. But wait a second, a 1v1 in the top side.
Oh no, the caster curse. I just called him a veteran and he gets assassinated by Tuzu. Oh, you hate to see it. The instant curse. Right live here as Boxy goes for more. Nile, the Circling Eagle, that's a good combo with Mizi Mink as he goes for the Guiding Wind, and that's gonna be the penalty zone, locking him down with now the Decimate following through. Boxy's gonna be next on the chopping block, but the Guiding Wind gets popped in by Flash, so he actually rotates back instead of taking Boxy. Turns out maybe it's a good way to actually escape, because that could have been a shutdown for Cambodia to take on Lord Flash.
Again, right, Cambodia picking up that pace, and it looks like Tuzu on the Hayabusa has actually opted to go for BOD, the Blade of Despair, so additional damage. And that was before he went in that 1v1 against Izzy on the Moskov. And you would think that Moskov, as a gold laner, is actually one of the most independent, especially with the kit that he has, that CC coming through with a spear. But against Hayabusa, it looks like in that 1v1, he's not going to be able to have that global presence as initially thought for. But Black Dragon form opened up already. And it looks like they're going to be able to pick up that Lord.
Penalty zone as well. It does seem like Felix will be forced to use that. Furious dive defensively. Very, very low. Mortal Coil going to be used up. And Felix gets the Petrify. Based on Decimate now in the back. It's going to be a good rough waves with the Petrify from Mizzy Mink. But unfortunately, not able to catch anyone. Boxy again, just with the Jikundo. Trying to go for some of these feints. Cambodia losing Felix, but getting the Lord. Another quad shadow just to go to his own purple buff.
15 seconds left on the clock for Felix to respawn into the Land of Dawn, but you can even see that most of the Cambodian players, they are still pushing in the pressure, trying to prevent Thailand for picking up anything. Easy going to be able to clear in that bottom lane. However, that top lane is still pushing. So far, he still only has 2 items on the board, right? A Corrosion as well as that Golden Staff. So he is still apart from that power spike that is supposed to hit for the Moskov. Meanwhile, the Claude already with 3 with the addition of the DHS. But meanwhile, look at the damage coming through.
Tuzu with the quad shadow into the shadow kill. Mizzy Mink won't be able to survive. 33 as well. Taking a whole lot of damage from that Hayabusa. As you can see, Lord Flash is in that bush now. Goes in with a Mortal Coil. No anti-CC to play with anymore. And Boxy goes for the Jikundo. Knocks him up. Gets him the kill. Meanwhile, what happened in the back? It seems for Thailand, they're not even able to enter their own jungle. Cambodia taking the jungle away from Thailand.
They want to get as many points as possible. They want to be able to make it as they go in for more.
Another shadow kill as Ra picks up the kill, this time without even the Decimate. Thailand wants to go to the bottom lane, trying to defend here, and the turret splash has already been used up. Boxy again is fainting. Tuzu goes in with the quad shadow, now into the shadow kill. He does have the quad shadow to go back, and he does use it just to distract for Run the King to run to the turret to take it down. Boxy, again, just using that Jikundo. This guy is so annoying on the Cho.
Extremely. That pressure, that kill pressure, that utility in his kit, that CC. The fact that he's able to get the Way of the Dragon, but it looks like the Black Dragon form has already been opened up.
Yeah, straight into the back. Oh, Petrify into the Furious Dive right as he baits out the Purify, but IZ will still be able to survive with the help of the photo and the Guiding Wind from Nile. But they will still be able to utilize that as a distraction to go for these turrets. They've gotten 2 base turrets with the first Lord, and now it's giving the shadow kill onto Nile. Not enough stacks to take him out just yet. Mizzy Mink barely survives there. The Spirit of Misery does connect with a fadeaway, but Tuzu gets out with the quad shadow before it can land.
They were clumped up as 4, Mirko. They were clumped up as 4. And Mizzy Mink nearly got taken out by the shadow kill, by the damage coming through from Tuzu. And it's so unfortunate to see, right? Because Cambodia, they're whipping out everything that they have. They're whipping out all their aggression on the board. And the fact that they are leading with a, how much is this? For 8k gold lead right now in the 13th minute of the game. It looks like Thailand are looking for opportunities to push this back into their own hands. Because so far, Cambodia, with the kill pressure that they have, with the utility that is built into the kick, and with the Malefic Roar, by the way, now built in for Tuzu, it looks like they're going to look for more.
Oh, Boxy with a magic trick, man. Saying goodbye to Lord Flash in the bottom lane. Still a split push as well, as it seems Boxy alone is able to zone them all behind towards the bottom side of the map. And it seems even with their rotations, they're not able to get anything on the board. Thailand completely out-macroed here in game number 1. They don't even need the jungler to take the Lord. Felix, by the way, you see that damage by the Lord? Almost taking Felix down now, though. Mizzy Mink. Oh, good shots by Izzy to take Tuzu down. Finally, shutting him down, punishing him for overextending.
And that's great. And hopefully, right, he can actually catch up to the lead that, of course, Run the King has been able to build in for himself. And now Tuzu with a 501-3 KDA that is going to kind of remind him just a little bit like, hey, okay, you've been able to hold a little bit more ground from that early game to this mid game. But of course, we are also catching up on our items, and we do also have that damage coming through. And we can see that being portrayed. But look at that.
3-man penalty zone. Good Purify now as Boxy will lose Immortality, but now the re-engage comes in with a Blazing New as well. The Decimate not able to take him down as the Mortal Coil gets the knock-up done. Good way the Dragon to lock him down, and that's going to be a trade, but Lord Flash only loses Immortality. Felix doing some damage back again, but the sustain is insane. Hold up, the Lord is marching to the base, and only IZ can recall. Look at the mini waves crashing down on the base. The Lord just going for the hits. How low is it going to be? IZ trying to look for the defense now as that's mid 33. Lord Flash and the rest of Thailand trying to look for the defense as well.
No.
The base is wide open. No ranged members to actually go to hit the crystal, but Boxy gets a Jikundo again, and Thailand, wow, are still able to defend. Maybe not for long though. Tuzu, shadow kill clears out the way, does some damage on the 33 as Boxing is forced back again. Tuzu gets out to the quad shadow. Thailand able to prolong the game a bit longer.
That was so close. That was a little bit way too close for comfort, especially for Thailand, right? All the supporters from Thailand all around the world watching ISF right now, they have got to be shaking because it was that close for it to be the end of them in game number 1. If we take a look at the items earlier on, before they went in for the Lord Clear, thankfully Easy was able to pick up a little bit more damage items, right? The Malefic Roar to help in with that clear, and now has also picked up the Wind of Nature. So that's a little bit more that he has in comparison to the Claude, actually, who went in for the Malefic Roar instead. I think now just going on the way to Wind of Nature doesn't have that yet, and maybe that's why he was taken out really early into that team fight, right? With Lord Flash just pumping through into the back line, going and wreaking havoc onto Run the King. He was taken out, and that's a big problem if Cambodia looks to close this game as soon as possible.
Slowly but surely, Cambodia are just playing with the waves now. They're trying their best to actually freeze the waves, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to fully suffocate Thailand because technically, I mean, you can see it in both ways, right? Fortunately for them, these waves are constantly going to be slow pushing back towards Thailand, which is good for the Lord setup, but it's not really good if you want to suffocate them, if you want to take as many resources as you possibly can, because technically for Thailand, they'll always be able to farm up these slow pushes that are constantly pushing towards them. Mizzy Mink looking for a possible pickoff there. A very unique bush to stay in the quad shadow. Used up by Tuzo. I think he reveals Mizzy Mink up there. And see, you can already see from Boxy rotating over. Shadow kill with the Sky Piercer. The execute is enough to take Mizzy Mink out. And now that's one man down right as the Lord Enhanced in the 17th minute spawns in the game.
This is the best case scenario now for Cambodia to have more of an advantage when it comes down to this Lord Dance. And Thailand knows this, right? With Mizzy Mink off the board, that threat, that damage coming through from the Kadita has actually been taken off the board. So they're not going to go for the contest. They are going to be playing a little bit more safely as Easy picks up in that Rose Gold Meteor. We are going to get a little bit of a replay as to what happened earlier on. And there you go, right? The Quad Shadow was able to open up the map, give them information as to the whereabouts of Mizzy Mink, and they were able to punish that oversight coming in from Mizzy Mink. And additionally, I think he thought that he would have had an advantage against Tuzu going for the burst, that 1v1, take him off the board right before the neutral objective take, and that was the 50-50, the gamble that Thailand actually went for, and unfortunately it didn't pay off, and now this Lord is going to be marching in this mid side.
3 lanes gonna be worked on now by Cambodia to go for that push in the mid lane, but it seems the mid lane will be pushing a bit further in first. No real mini waves coming down. The penalty zone now locked in as Lord Flash is able to use the Mortal Coil to go back. But look at the damage coming down. Just very slowly melting them away. The Winter Crown going to be bought by Lord Flash. That's going to be a good Petrify to take Tuzo before he can even go for the Immortality. Run the King with a Blazing Duet. And now this Guiding Wind with the Circling Eagle will be able to take one down. Run the King forced back again. And the Lord gets dealt with. Cambodia struggling to end in the 90th minute of the game. The chase continues out to Boxy. And you can see for IZ just with the Abyss Walkers and now the Breath of the Ocean. Even with the Way of the Dragon, it does not matter. Boxy will be taken out. And that's a killing spree for IZ.
What a defense from Thailand again, right? 2 times in a row they have been able to pick up the pace and they have been able to create such great defensive plays. And yes, it looks like a 2v1 is happening. Run the King needs to be careful.
Okay, Felix just doing some damage onto Mizzy Mink. 5 seconds onto Tuzo, 7 on Ra. So for Thailand, maybe the best case scenario would just be to take this tier 2. They won't really be able to go for much more. That's a good Furious Dive into the Black Dragon form. Now chasing IZ down. Seems they might want to go for the fight. But look at IZ's damage. Already dealing a whole lot now with the Spear of Misery actually disengaging for Felix. Felix still going to be in the front side now, taking a whole lot of damage, getting the sustain from the War Axe and the passive, but will not be able to take anyone down. Good Guiding Wind by Nile there to save 33 for what looked like a full collapse by Cambodia.
That was a chunky boy. I mean, they were dishing out so much damage, and you would think that Easy at until this point has enough of the penetration and the base damage to go in for that 1v1 against the Yuzong, but man, Felix, right? Buying so much time. And unfortunately, Thailand couldn't look to capitalize over in that particular team fight, seeing as there was follow-up as well from the Blazing Duet that came in from Run the King on the Claude. But a lot of these skirmishes, a lot of these team fights, the damage has actually been from Ra on the Valentina, and we finally get to see why, right? So aggressive in that itemization. We do see the Holy Crystal being built up as with the glowing wand, and then she goes in for, of course, the Blood Wing. So more sustain, more damage. There's utility built in as well. And now she's actually picked up the Winter Crown. So we're gonna see again this 5v5 Lord Dance coming to play, and it looks like they're going in. That's a flicker, burns out.
Good penalty zone, but look at that. Oh, Izzy, way too forward there, goes in way too overextended. Tuzu able to pick up that kill now, as that's gonna be the circling eagle to lock Tuzu down, but will not be able to find enough. That's gonna decimate onto Rod, taking him out again. It's gonna be 3 members knocked up by Boxy. Felix looking for some damage. Lord Flash still has the reset on the decimate. Meanwhile, the waves need to be dealt with by Thailand. Still a good trade for Thailand based on the members here. It's 4v3, 2 members down for Cambodia, but it seems now they want to just go for the end with the waves. Mizzy Mink gets baited in, and the Furious die with a Dragon Tail. Gets rid of Mizzy Mink. Now it's gonna be Lord Flash looking for the defense with the help of 33. Felix taking a whole lot of damage, but has a sustain with the War Axe, with that passive as well. Run the King with a BMI forward, trying to go for a shadow kill as well. The decimate going to be used up, but it's only going to be used up onto the immortality. Another one. Now onto Run the King, who has the immortality again, but now it's going to be Lord Flash, who ultimately takes him out. Again, Thailand are able to defend and win a team fight.
They were under in terms of manpower, right? Cambodia, and yet they still wanted to go for the commitment onto Thailand to look for an end. They're getting hasty with this decision making, and maybe they thought that perhaps without Izzy on the board, they don't have much damage coming through. But man, the fact that the Terizla was able to buy that much time and create those kinds of distractions and buy that much time for the rest of the members to pop in, especially Lord Flash on the Mardis, it created so many calculations coming from Cambodia, and they were able to once again go for a successful defense. And here they go again. Do they really want to commit onto this? This is a 3v3 right now.
Oh, they do. They go straight for it. A Spirit of Destruction too. Izzy, I don't think he'll want to take this one though. Run the King down. Still will be up in 3 seconds, but now with no Felix, they have a chance to just go for the Lord, and Izzy will be first onto it. Boxy trying to go for an angle perhaps. Izzy taking a whole lot of damage from the Lord. Good petrify. Tuzu still able to escape. The Mortal Coil gets used up as well, and Tuzu has baited in some of these big ultimates already. Boxy jumps in, not able to find the way to Dragon. Izzy is able to escape. Now the Blazing Duet from Run the King goes to the back with the helmet of Decimate, but Izzy is still able to escape for a bit. Tuzu with Retribution, but no! Lord Flash wins it. The Shadow Kill not going to be used up just yet, as 33 will be melted down by Run the King and Rod together. Still has the Immortality and the Guiding Wind to get him back to safety, and with the Lord, they can still use this in the 23rd minute of the game. But take a look at the waves, slowly but surely clumping up together. It's gonna spawn in the 42nd, that minion wave. That's gonna be the Circling Eagle trying to delay the inevitable right now. It's actually now just gunned down from the skies. Lord Flash going in, Mizzy Ming trying to go for the rough waves, but Run the King's able to dodge away from with the Battle Mirror Image. And now it's gonna be the Winter Crown bot just in time, pops it in. The Lord spawns in, Run the King with the BMI again, dodging away from the penalty zone, jumps back in with the Blazing Duet now onto the mini waves to get some sustain, as 33 is desperately fighting with the Evolved Lord with the damage reduction. Run the King gets him down with the Battle Mirror Image. Once again, the Winter Crown gets bought, but Felix has rotated in time. And finally, 33 will be taken down. Cambodia, they get the Game 1 victory in the 24th minute of the game.
And they lead the series of a huge and risky play. Who would do that, right? You have a Lord on the way already. You are under in terms of manpower, and you still commit for the siege. You could still commit to go in for the end. And that could have went so badly for Cambodia, right? That could have been that ender to them. But with the fact that they were able to calculate it so well, they were able to close out the game. But man, that was a big 50-50 play they committed to go for that end. Whew.
It really was, my Lord, right? Without the Lord, it looked like it was going to be another defense for Thailand. It looked like they were able to actually delay for the Lord to actually spawn up. And if it did spawn in with some of those members still alive, I think they would have actually been able to pull off that defense, because Evolved Lord gives you the damage reduction. But we are going to be taking a look at the highlights here, Eterna, for Game 1.
We saw that in the early stage of the game, right? 4 minutes in, there was a little bit more to say coming from Thailand, because they were able to have a little bit more rotations coming through. The pickoffs were there, but Cambodia in these 5v5 team fights, they were able to also find that opening with the damage finally coming through from Tuzu. And then it was quite 50-50, honestly, from the start of the game, right? And then we move on to the 6th minute here in the top side. Run the King does get a little bit more kills in and was able to get to that power spike a lot quicker, which is why we saw that Cambodia had a little bit more priority and a little bit more of an advantage, especially when it came down to that mid game.
Slowly but surely, they were able to take the game. It didn't feel like, the normal Cambodian style where they get a massive snowball and utilize that to steamroll their opponents. In this game, they were held back by Thailand in a lot of these early skirmishes, and I think we've got to give props to the trio mid. All three of them played so well in the early game to go for these team fights, sometimes even winning it. But this, again, was the moment that I was talking about. IZ was praising him as an MSC champion. I'll never do that again. I'm very sorry, IZ. I just had to point that out, man. But
it's your natural caster curse.
Yeah, dude, it's so unreal that it happens right as I say that. This guy's an MSC champion, right? Whatever. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But the fact that Thailand was able to hold on in the early game, kind of already. Oh, this is a crazy combo too, by the way. The split in the team fight. It kind of gave them enough time to wait for IZ to get to his item power spikes, and that's why Thailand were inevitably able to defend. Their defense was really good because the wave clear came through from the Moskov. If it wasn't for the Moskov getting the item power spikes, I think for sure Cambodia would have ended like around here in the 13th, 14th minute of the game. IZ was taken down here actually, right? Oh no, this is the moment where he actually got the photo.
And I think one of the biggest highlights was actually Ra as well, right? From the side of Cambodia. He dealt so much damage, and the way that he used his IMU was also very flexible and very adaptive according to what the team needed, right? Sometimes he would actually even pick up the decimate to go in for the last hits, the last kills, and he was the biggest damage dealer in some of these team fights. I mean, look at this point, right? He goes in for the decimate, was able to kind of take in to that immortal, and this was that really unfortunate moment here for Mizzy Mink. They went in for that 50-50, they went in for the risk and the gamble play, but the fact that they were able to vision him out because of the quad shadow was ultimately how he was taken off the board. And there were so many moments as well from Mizzy Mink, right? Despite him being on the losing side of the first game in this best of 3 match, there were a lot of moments that was actually created by Mizzy Mink on this Kadita. So it's a pick that we don't see quite often, but in this particular sense, we do see the value of the Kadita, especially on the hands of Mizzy Mink.
I think if you take a look at that earlier fight, IZ just played it so well. Utilized the space, but right as I say that again, the highlights even, right? We get to see him overextend. That timing is a bit too scary now. It's a bit too on point. But yeah, for IZ, he played it so well inside of his own base. But around these team fights around the Lord, it does seem like, positioning wise, he's trying to make that big gamble, that big play to actually get the game for Thailand. But it eventually became a big loss for them. The fact that IZ died so early in that team fight meant that for Cambodia at least, they could actually just run down. And I think this was a very very choice to make. The fact that they didn't go for the safe route, which is just go for the Lord, they actually tried to go for the end. That was pretty cool of them. Actually, they were able to almost take the base. Unfortunately, some of these moments didn't go to plan. They got knocked up a bit too much. They got taken out as well. But in this final team fight, it was just Ra, the guy you were talking about, the highlight. Ra in the back together with Run the King. IZ has always been able to play around the team with the wind of nature. If Ra can actually find an angle to attack, then that's what's going to happen, right? There's too much damage for him to deal with, and it's too many layers of damage as well. It's not just physical. Ra, again, though, with the steal on the decimate. I think if you count how many times he stole any one of the ultimates from Thailand, he stole the decimate the most. He really likes going for the execute. He's always that aggressive mid laner for Cambodia. I love to see it. Again here with the Evolved Lord, it was just unfortunate that Thailand wasn't able to fully delay for that Lord to spawn in, because if it did spawn in with some of those members still being alive, it would have been really good for them. They would have gone on damage reduction. I think they would have been able to utilize that value, that benefit that you get with the Evolved Lord to maybe pull off another miracle defense, but it just looked like after the 17th minute, it was inevitable.
It really was. Actually, no, it was kind of 50-50. I thought it could sway both ways. But the player of the match, our MVP, goes to Run the King. Of course, on the Claude, being able to, despite having a little bit of a rough start in the game in the early stage, he got bullied here and there. He was still able to get to that power spike as fast as possible. And his itemization choices was actually quite standard. I think earlier on he went for a little bit more damage as compared to defense. I think Wind of Nature, one of his last choice in items, and that's why he was taken out in that particular team fight against the Martis. But as an overall, you can see his damage dealt, you can see his stats, and of course he was very impactful in these team fights from that damage that he was able to take out. But I think, again, honorable mention for me has got to be Ra on the Valentina. Being that aggressive, by the way, on a choice of spell like the Purify is quite insane, right? Because if you want to make the big plays, you want to make the big things happen, especially with the IMU, if you want to go for things like the Decimate or even some CC heavy things, you would opt to go for a Flicker to be able to get to that spot a lot quicker, so you avoid as much damage taken as possible. But he chose the Purify, and that's how much impact that he was able to have. So imagine if this kid picked up the Flicker instead.
It almost seems like, at least for this game, right, the Purify enabled him to go for those aggressive maneuvers, because yeah, the Flicker would be a bit more aggressive. You get that blink forward, but I think for this particular game, there was just so much CC coming in from Thailand, right? So if he dashes forward, or even if he flickers forward, he would be very, very vulnerable to the CC layering. There's a penalty zone, there's a Breath of the Ocean, there's a Petrify, and a Circling Eagle knockup too. And with the Purify, he was able to do whatever he wanted in these skirmishes. Go in, dash forward, get the Terrify. Whenever they engage on him, he goes for the Winter Crown, goes to the Purify, gets the help from the team, and gets a Decimate, right? That final Decimate. Boom, right into them. I don't know, the flanks that, it really looked like he had a Flicker, by the way. If you just take a look at how he was able to maneuver around his opponents, it looked like he had a Flicker. There's no way you should be able to flank like that on a Valentina up against a Mathilda and a Moscow. These two heroes, very mobile, very agile in these skirmishes, but somehow, some way, he was able to find these plays together with Run the King. It makes sense for Run the King. He has a blink. Valentina. Exactly. I'm looking at the highlights again, and it's crazy that he got so many of these angles. It's about, I think, the smart pathing that he takes around these bushes, where he decides to show up, when he decides to go for these dashes. It's all really well played by him.
And also, you gotta give props to the chemistry, right? Because most of the time he's always diving into the back line, but he's not going in alone. He's always with the Cho. He is always with Boxy that can actually facilitate these aggressive plays as well. So big props to the Cho, by the way. I think we were talking about it earlier on, and I was expecting a little bit more damage from the Cho with the changes in the recent patch, but even going for a little bit more of a defensive build, the damage in the early stage of the game does still show. So big props to all the Cho users out there that can actually maybe look for more aggressive angles in the early stage of the game. And I think that's also that was a big setter towards the tempo from Cambodia, right? We saw that wave clear happening, that damage coming through against the Matilda as well as the Kadita in the mid lane. And it's a interesting thing. That's why I just really enjoy having tournaments right after patch hits. That's always so curious as to how these teams actually layer the changes, and we had a lot of changes with the items, we had a lot of changes with the emblems as well. There were so many adjustments on several different heroes. I'm actually waiting for Bane Jungle that hasn't popped up yet.
Oh yeah,
right? So we'll see. I mean, because Hayabusa went in for Warcry as well, right? So very aggressive emblem choice, a little bit more damage. I think additional 8% damage for the Hayabusa. And
I think Eterna, I just have to take the time to dissect what you said at the start.
What did I say?
Are you shouting out, all the Cho users, or a specific Cho user here? Eterna?
We have Q-Boy.
Yeah, we have Q-Boy.
Right? Drian. I love me some Drian.
Okay. Okay. So Cho users, not a very specific Cho user that we all know that used to play for a team that is the color of your background. Anyways, Yeah, the Cho, I personally think, especially on Roam, it makes sense for you to go just for pure tank because you already technically have additional utility now. You have physical defense shred with your passive, which is so good.
Yeah.
That's why they went for the Claude and the Hayabusa, I think. And technically even the Yu Zhong. That's why they went for 3 physical damage dealers. Because when the Cho goes for the Way of the Dragon out, if you get the proc on your passive before the Way of the Dragon, technically it just gets you to a spot where you're kind of like a Kaja Dairoth merge man. You get a kick, you get a pick off, and you get that shred with the physical defense. So the Claude and the Yu Zhong and the Haya can all deal with him very easily. I like that new change, man. You know, fun fact, Keyboy actually doesn't really like the change to the Jeet Kune Do. Now the range of the Jeet Kune Do is a bit like it's longer. It's actually you can actually dash further. But he doesn't like it because he can't stay within a bush, particularly the bush in the mid lane. Sorry, not the mid lane. You know, the one right next to the turtle, the small bush. Like this turtle, there's a bush here, and there's the wave. Yeah, that small
there
like
there are a lot of bushes, but I'm gonna just
the mid lane.
like,
you know,
I
bush
what
near
you're
to the mid lane.
talking
That small like circle.
Oh,
So
near the Lito?
Yeah, the one near the Lito.
Okay.
So usually back then, at least before the patch, you can actually use the Jeet Kune Do inside of the bush, and you won't reveal yourself. But now because you actually travel further with your Jeet Kune Do, when you use it in the bush, you're not going to be in the bush anymore. So you can't even go for those crazy ambushes anymore. There's a give and take, obviously. More range equals to better plays. You can go for pickoffs around the map a bit easier, but maybe for ambushes, not that good.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep an eye out for that, seeing whether or not they're actually going to pick up the Cho once again for Cambodia, as it looks like both of these teams have actually opted to go on a different side. So now Thailand has the first pick. They're going to utilize the bans here for the Ling. We have the Luo Yi being banned out as well, and it looks like Harith has also been taken off the board. So still these teams are respecting that Luo Yi and that chip potential that we were talking about, and they're still gonna go for that. The question is, are they gonna go for the Angela and the Roger ban as well, or are they gonna go for something different to try and facilitate that first pick Angela or that first pick Roger?
Yeah, I think the only change, there hasn't been any changes technically. There's only been a change to the sides. There's also a change to who bans what. It was Cambodia who actually let go of the Harith in game number 1. It was Thailand that was forced to go for the Harith ban on the red side, but this time it's a bit too prior to let go. It does seem though the Mathilda will be respected away from Cambodia by Thailand here, and Cambodia will go for the last ban. It does seem like for Thailand at least they're trying to set up for one prio pick to be left open, whether it be the Roger or the Angela. We're gonna have to figure that out here as we see Cambodia's final ban. Maybe they might just actually leave both open, but no, they go for the Angela ban, leaving the Roger up for grabs. In Thailand, they have a chance to pick up that super prio hero. Great flex pick, really good in both roles that you can flex him in. The jungle, I think he's a bit better than in the gold lane. You get active way easier on the map early on compared to in the gold lane, and you get to participate in a lot of these skirmishes. So let's see, Thailand first pick. What else is up for grabs? Terizla?
Yu Zhong? Terizla? I mean, last time we saw that Cambodia picked up Claude in the first phase, but it looks like Thailand are taking their dear time. They're really thinking about this, despite the Roger being open. So if they don't go for the Roger, that is going to be able to be left open for Cambodia to pick up. And remember, we are at match point, ladies and gentlemen, in this best of 3. But no, they don't want to go for the gamble. They understand that prio and that Roger will be picked up first and foremost. Moskov is actually now the choice for Cambodia. They don't go for the Claude instead. So already a different kind of gameplay and strategy that Cambodia is utilizing here in game number 2.
The Moscow pick and the Terizla. Alright, so this time we get to see the Terizla on the side of Cambodia. With the Terizla and the Yu Zhong, I would say especially in these team fights, they're a bit more 50-50. I think the Terizla has a bit more presence in the early game, but in the later stage of the game, the Yu Zhong definitely kind of outscales him in a way where he can sustain, he can deal damage, he can also engage, and has more layers to his utility, I would say. But if you want to actually snowball from the start, that's what Cambodia usually plays around. The Terizla pick just becomes so massive. And I think now, it's cool and all that we get the jungle in a place now that you can actually go for different picks, like the Roger, the Ling, on top of the utility picks that we are very, at this point, bored of. But now it seems like the XP is having a little bit of a jungle arc. We're only seeing Terizla and Yu Zhong. We're seeing We used to see Benedetta, CC, Xborg, so many different picks in the XP. Now it's mostly just Terizla, Yuzong. Hopefully, Cambodia batted out from Thailand, so we get to see at least a different matchup here. It's the Grok priority for Thailand, and also that Valentina. Taking it away from Ra, knowing how good Ra was in Game 1 with that Valentina, it's a great take.
And remember, right, with the Grok being picked up as well, there's just so many things that they can utilize, especially if they want to focus more on the neutral objective takes. The Grok clears super quickly, so that's already good mid-prio with the Valentina, who also clears fast. And it's going to be very difficult for them to kind of hold on to the tempo in the early stage of the game now that Thailand has picked it up. But Cambodia, once again, going to go for the Hayabusa pick in the jungle, and there's absolutely no flex. Meanwhile, Thailand can still kind of flex in their roster, right? This Roger can still be in the gold lane, or they can even flex it into the jungle. So that's definitely a layer that can be utilized to the advantage of Thailand as we enter the second phase of the drafts. Because, for Thailand, it's a little bit more straightforward, right? If you want to limit the mid lane, you can go for that. If you want to limit more of the roamers, you can also go for that as well. But meanwhile, for Cambodia, they kind of have to think about it, right? Do we go for the prio into what lane? But it looks like the Yuzong, like Mirko anticipated and like Mirko wanted from the very beginning, does get banned out. So I think at this point, right, Xborg, right? Is Xborg not doing well? Is that why we haven't been seeing him too often? Because before the patch hit, we've been seeing a lot of Xborgs to try and go for the counters towards these beefy heroes, right? Like the Terizlas, the Barats, the Baxias. Where did the Xborg go?
Yeah, I think it's because of the lack of the beefy heroes. Usually we have 3 beefy heroes in a composition, right? Only the mid lane and the gold lane isn't a beefy hero. They're usually, the only squishy picks are usually mid and gold. But the fact now that the jungle is seeing a lot more damage dealers, more assassins come up, it does seem like, for the Xborg, it has lost that damage value. But it has the what's it called? That survivability value with the Faraga armor, right? Up against the assassins. I think a lot of people, a lot of teams as well, have been banning the Xborg, not to set up for their tanks, but to actually set up for their damage dealers, for their assassins specifically. Because when you have an Xborg, you already have 2 HP bars. That's already hard enough to deal with. You get immortality, and you make that 4 HP bars. So assassins will have a tough time assassinating the anti-assassin man himself, Xborg. Let's see if Cambodia actually get rid of that, because I think it would be still a very, very good ban if they decide to go for the Xborg. And yeah, they actually do. Even though they don't have any beefy members, not a lot of beefy members, only the Terizla, it's double value for them. Xborg does well in lane against the Terizla, and it also can survive up against this damage from the assassin.
So the question is, what is the next ban for Thailand, right? They've picked off the Xavier, much to my dismay, by the way. I was really wanting to see a Xavier being picked up in this current meta, and they also go for the Carmilla ban, right? So what's the option here? Do they go for Vexana to try and facilitate more of these team fights, especially with the Terizla, right? They can definitely go for that. Obviously, it's a big resource that can be taken away by the Valentina. So what's the choice here? Novaria, Vexana. If they want to go for more clear, they go for Lilia. There's just what mid laner can you utilize that can't be capitalized over by the Valentina? There isn't a lot, right?
I guess the Lilia is the safest option. You give the black shoes over. I don't think you want to give these big ults. Usually I would expect up against this composition, if there was no Valentina, to just go for something like an Edith. But giving the Primal Wrath away or giving the real world manipulation away is usually something you don't want to be given out like that. But it does seem like for Cambodia, they're going to get value out of that. If they do give the real world manipulation away, that means for Mizzy Mink at least, he'll be forced to just stand his ground in that team fight. And that does give the Hayabusa a bit of a better way to flank in and to go for the assassination. But there you go. Yes, we get some diversity in the XP. I think this is the first Benedetta of the Asian regional qualifiers. And it's a Ruby pick too for gold?
I think Ruby XP.
Roger Jungle?
Oh no, wait. Roger Roger Gold Lane, right? Roger Gold Lane, Grok, Rome, Ruby. Wait, what?
Place your bets, man.
Who is going where, ladies and gentlemen? I'm having a hard time kind of placing where these heroes are going, because technically Benedetta can also be a jungler, right? But we do have a Tigreal being locked in for Cambodia for the last pick. And by the way, the Yve has just gotten a buff, right? The first skill has additional damage, so it's a lot quicker for her to go in for the clear, which was kind of a big problem with the Eve pre-patch that hit. You wanted to say something?
I think the logical roles for this would just be Roger Jungle, Gold Lane Ruby, XP Benedetta, and it does seem like with the trades, with the swaps in the draft as we enter the game, 33 is on that Benedetta, so that should be the case. I wanted to say, yeah, with the Eve, technically it's a double buff. She's been buffed 2 patches in a row, right? The new patch and the one previously with the cooldowns being a bit reduced. It's been reduced. I think it was skill 1 that was reduced. So very good stuff for the Eve. Let's see if she comes back. Also, she got like a visual revamp.
Oh, she's looking fly. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get to game number 2 in this best of 3 series, match point for Cambodia. And of course, their tournament lives are at stake here. If they want to move forward to the playoffs, they do need to ramp as many points as they can here in the group stage. And if Cambodia can go for a clean sweep here, they will be able to advance straight to the playoffs from this group stage. A lot of, wow, very aggressive plays coming from Nile already from Thailand on the Grok, going for the invades, despite the additional damage that, of course, these invades can actually pose onto himself. But I think that does give them a little bit more time to have an advantage in this jungle. But so far, the Roger going to be able to go in for the mid clear, but they took that lethal away, actually. The Hayabusa doing work here. Tuzu once again on his Prio hero.
Clean retry steal there, but now he won't have retribution for his own camp, and it seems for Lord Flash he wants to just go for the steal. Has a retribution, goes for the retry, but actually misses it there because of the pressure placed in by Boxy. Shadow Kill can be used up onto Nile, able to flicker out of it just in time. Well played as IZ rotates towards Tuzu, wants to deal some damage. Run the King! That's a good Spear of Misery, connecting on the IZ, forcing him back, and Tuzu gets the gold crab too. Early on, and a lot of small victories clumping up for Cambodia.
We're seeing that actually play into effect here in the first few minutes of the game. We're actually heading to minute number 2. And right now, Lord Flash at level 4, we do see that Tuzu is on the same level. So when it comes down to this neutral objective take, it is a little bit of a 50-50, unless both of these roamers say otherwise. But what?
Lycan Pounce going very aggressively. Lord Flash unable to get the kill down, and Tuzu now jumps back in with a quad shadow to find first blood. Oh no! It happened to Lord Flash around the green camp. Now it happens again as he overchases Boxy.
And now without a jungler, it looks like Cambodia has a little bit more space to work around these lanes as well. They don't directly go for the turtle. It looks like they're waiting in for the level 4s to hit just in case they go for a 5v5 team fight. But wow, again, Tuzu with the Sky Piercer on the Hayabusa. So much damage coming through as they go in for the neutral objective take.
Good dodge, secures it as well. Not a Spear of Destruction, and that's gonna be the shadow kill now with the appearance of Run the King. 33, trying to deal some damage. Ra able to flicker out of the Eye for an Eye at 33. I don't know if he's able to escape from this, man. He has the dashes, but no Eye for an Eye. They're actually just gonna be taunting him in front of the bush, waiting for him to show himself, and now goes in for perhaps a trade. But Ra just spaces perfectly around that ability. And man, for Cambodia, what a great start for them. 2,000 gold lead.
Yeah, 3-0. I mean, 4-0 technically if you count in the turtle trade in favor of Cambodia. And they are ramping up when it comes down to the items. Look at that. Look at that confidence coming in from Tuzu as well, going in very aggressively onto Nile on the Grok. And you can see in from the items, he does go for the gloves as well as the Fury Hammer. So there's a lot of adaptive damage. He actually has 2 of those gloves, by the way. So that's additional adaptive damage as well as the additional physical damage coming in from that Fury Hammer. And you know that he means business. He should be going for a little bit more later on. But so far, the tempo has been taken in. But that's a trade? Not yet, actually, as they were able to outplay that. So unfortunate as Terizla, Felix is still able to get out.
Very unfortunate stuff, man. Thailand, it seems like they're always so close to getting these kills, so close for going for these trades. But the timing might be off. Spear Destruction all the way into the mid lane. Tuzu goes for the shadow kill. Now will be able to soak in some of that damage. Cast the wild charge, but will not be able to use it. That's a good real world manipulation as well to zone them away. But Boxy walking up. I think he really wanted to go for an implosion flicker there. But yeah, a bit too risky to go for. Lord Flash now might have to use a retribution onto the camp. Will do that as Boxy just dashes forward. Now gets picked off and gets a lot of that HP taken out. Gets the implosion down to 33. A good eye for an eye as Tuzu rotates over. A good penalty zone as well to lock him down. And the Petrify will be able to connect on to Boxy with the Phantom Slash dealing some damage to take him out. That's a trade though for Mizzy Menk as Lord Flash is very low. Tuzu has the quad shadow too. Sorry, I'm Felix just going with the hammers, bumping it down onto Lord Flash. That's skill 1 not connecting, but Tuzu has the quad shadow, will use it in the end, and that is going to be an assassination for Tuzu with the last hit connecting. Run the King trying to go for the Spear of Misery to pin Nile down. Meanwhile, Izzy go for the chase onto Tuzu. Spear of Destruction again. Run the King gonna follow it all the way. A good Purify to get out the wild charge, but Mizzy Mink is doing some damage. A good shutdown as well from Izzy as Run the King is trying his best to escape. Where does he go to? Izzy is in the bottom side. Mizzy Mink is gonna be in up top, and Run the King is able to escape. Oh, good dash and the shove over. Izzy with one last hit. Run the King will be taken down, with the real world manipulation will lock them down into the penalty zone as well. Good Phantom Slash now as the Eye for a Night gets popped too. 33 trying to go for some damage with the final blow, but unable to really go for it. Not for Run the King at least. A good implosion to lock Lord Flash down as the Lycan Pounce gets used up. Torium Felix using the body of Smith to go for the damage reduction. Boxy very low. Lord Flash, no Lycan Pounce. He can go for it one more time, and the Lycan Pounce really can be enough.
Oh!
No! Sorry, I'm Felix with a fadeaway. Cool guys don't look at explosions.
That was one of the longest clashes we've seen so far, and of course it has to go down between both of these regions. Thailand and Cambodia once again is showing that they love the clashes, they love the aggression, and they love the drama and the spice coming through. But look at this, Tuzu still gonna be able to pick up that retribution despite the displacements coming through. And wow, it's just so dominant coming in from Cambodia, and it looks like Easy utilizing this ruby in the gold hasn't really found as much success, right? Run the King still at 112, gonna be able to farm, and the level is also still the same in terms of that EXP. What do you think was the idea with the ruby in the gold lane?
I think it's just to try to enable the Roger, but at this point they're falling so far behind. Izzy unable to find anything. Now very low implosion flicker. Boxy again finding Izzy, and the instant burst from the team, the instant follow-up. Run the King able to go for the Abyss Walker now with the Spear of Misery, but the Shadow Kill will be used up onto the back line. Has the Spear of Destruction as well. The Wild Charge knocks him up, and it is going to be an outplay finally for Thailand. They're able to punish Tuzu.
Yeah, he has got to be shut down, right? 423 Sky Piercer earlier on with a War Cry emblem as well. He is dishing out that damage, and he definitely has the kill pressure to go in for this 1v1s and have a little bit more say when it comes down to it. And Run the King not wasting any time. Once again, he was the MVP from game number 1, the player of the game, and here you can see kind of why, right? He's very quick with his decision making. He's really quick with the macro. But you're right, what happened in that 1v1? Felix gonna be able to take the Benedetta down, and now he's sitting at a 6-0-4. It looks like concealed play has been utilized.
Yeah, right into the implosion. Only connecting on one member though, as the quad shadow gets placed down as well by Tuzu. Just hovering over. Good, I'm offended to catch Boxy there as a real world inflation. We'll be able to lock them down for a bit. Run the King dealing some damage, but there's no collapse, not yet. Cambodia still wanting to play around a neutral objective that will be spawning back up in 8 seconds, but Nile tries to open up the map, pumps in that power of nature to get the anti-CC. But even Felix is dealing a whole lot of damage now.
For sure, right? It's gonna be curious to see what the items are actually ramping up towards, but this Benedetta is still going to be able to push in the map, right? Play that far lane, that macro heavy style, pushing in that top lane. But meanwhile, that's a lot of damage onto Felix, actually.
Good, I'm offended as the penalty zone locks him down. Now there's going to be the Spirit of Destruction from Run the King, teleporting towards the bottom side of the map as Izzy is going to be completely assassinated here by Tuzu on that Shadow Kill. Now doesn't have the Quad Shadow, and that's going to be a 3-man Petrify into the Phantom Slash. Great kill back on the Tuzu, but the Spirit of Misery catches him. A good fight for an eye though. Lord Flash able to go for the Lycan Pounce as Run the King is able to kite them away. Boxy goes over to knock him up. Mizzy Mink gets the splash of damage to take Run the King down. Boxy again trying to hover over, maybe going for another pick off. Real world inflation, but Mizzy Mink just dashes out of it. Thailand actually won in that skirmish, right? But now, let's take a look at the trade. Felix on that turret will be able to take it. Lord Flash taken very low. And Cambodia will be able to walk away with a little bit of a dub there because they got the turret in the mid lane.
It was a 2-for-2 trade, but like you mentioned, right, they were able to get that turret in the top lane, so it does give them a little bit more say, especially when they start to go for this Lord dance in the 9th minute of the game. You were talking about the Trizla earlier. He goes in for the War Axe, the Radiant, as well as the Dominance Ice. So that damage is coming from that War Axe, and man, like the changes to the War Axe has made this item so OP. Right, so much lifesteal, so much spell vamp, as well as that damage coming through with the addition of the War Axe passive. But again, Thailand looking in to go for a better setup over Cambodia. But if we compare both of the goal laners, wait a second.
Gee.
Sorry, I'm Felix. That's kind of a lot of damage placed onto Nile right before this Lord. They need to look for a proper setup here.
Okay, what will be the proper setup for Thailand? Will they just be to go on to Boxy?
2 levels below?
Yeah, Ra too. You can see the constant poke coming in from that Eve penalty zone onto IZ. Only just to IZ. Wild Charge gonna be committed down and actually catches the quad shadow Tuzu. Real revelation into the implosion. Now goes back to the shot, but isn't able to do so. Good donor Wolfgang has run the king. Joins in a team fight. IZ gonna be taken very, very low. Jumps in with a Mistwalker. Able to get rid of IZ, but he's gonna be very, very low. As Mizzy Ming and the rest deal with the other members in the back. It's just gonna be Run the King who survives that skirmish. And Thailand make a full comeback here in terms of gold, as they get the first Lord of the game.
I mean, you were asking what the proper setup is, and it turns out it's to go in for a team fight before they go in for the neutral objective take, right? Because if they went for that 50-50, Tuzu is too far ahead in terms of that EXP, so it makes that 50-50 retribution battle more of a 28 or 70-30. But if they go in for the team fight, if they can shut the members from the side of Cambodia down, then of course they have a little bit more advantage. Not even a little bit, right? A lot more advantage when it came down to that Lord dance. So they did that perfectly. And Cambodia, they were caught off guard with the setup coming through from Thailand. And even Izzy on the Ruby was able to buy so much time in that 1v1 against Run the King that eventually did kind of favor Run the King. But this is the results that we're getting. That Lord is pushing in this top side. We have the Benedetta going in for the bottom side. But look at that! What?
The flicker out of the wild charge, the penalty zone to go for the disengage. Run the King will be able to get the Spear of Misery. Now it's gonna be boxing, looking for a re-engage as the Lord gets taken low. Nile walking on the power of nature. Tuzu goes in for the flank now with the quad shadow, gets a dash as well. Another Spirit of Destruction, but it is not gonna be able to connect. Boxy able to get the flicker down now, down the knock up as well. Tuzu dealing some damage. Mizzy Mink going to fall with the shadow kill placed down, but look at the bottom lane. It is gonna be a trade with a tier 2. Tuzu still going for the chase now onto Nile, but will have to respect the tankiness that Nile has. Cambodia able to defend and able to get a valuable trade, a good trade.
But every time they do get a favorable trade, they forget housekeeping, right? Because most of the time when they're getting an advantage in these skirmishes or these team fights, they're always in a 5v5. They're clumping up as 5. And the fact is, 33 on the Benedetta has been able to find so much value munching down these side lanes. And the fact that they go in for these team fights, they're distracted, right? And so I think. Oh, wait a second.
The Abyss Walker for the orange buff. They get knocked up by the wild charge. Well played by Nile. And for Cambodia, super greedy.
Again, right? A big disadvantage. 2 members taken out. Sure, there's a little bit of a trade by Tuzu in the top lane to get in that tower, but for the most part, Thailand has been able to capitalize over the mistakes and over these decisions that Cambodia have made time and time again. And the Roger is so far doing okay, was able to pick up a Sky Piercer along with a Thunderbelt. So he's dealing the damage, but he's also a very chunky fella. As here we go, Tuzu and Lord Flash.
Oh, I don't know about this Tuzu. He made a decision, and it's gonna be Light can bounce Tuzu. Trying to escape now, but look at that. He can only jump so many times right into the auto attack with the Sky Piercer, eliminating him from the Land of Dawn. 30 seconds for Tuzu. And again, it's Cambodia making these very, very unique and interesting moves around the map that hasn't paid off at all.
I love that quadruple 9 damage, bro. Did you see that?
Balance, bro.
It's so broken. And the fact that Tuzu goes in for such a risky play like that, despite Lord Flash already picking up something like the... Oh, wait a second.
Good damage, run the king. Oh, that's gonna be a winner. Crown used up. Good implosion to bring them back all the way to the real world manipulation. Now gonna be caught there. Spirit of Destruction does connect, but take a look at Izzy and Lord Flash. They stay objective. They go for the Lord. Sorry, I'm feeling it'll flicker forward. Now the Mizzy Ming doing some damage as the implosion catches him off guard. Still is gonna be Ra doing some damage, taking him out. Izzy able to flicker out with the tough boost tenacity from that shove back from Boxy. Again though, Thailand, they get caught in the team fight right as they get the Lord, and this does give Cambodia an opportunity to perhaps look for their own siege. It's going to be a super mini wave in the mid lane enhanced by the Lord, but now Boxy is looking for an angle, has the flicker as well. Izzy able to defend for now as that's going to be Run the King going out to the purple buff. A good I'm offended. The catch, Fari and Felix goes over the penalty zone, has the immortality as well. Now gets popped down. Lord Flash looking for some damage, and that's gonna be the Donut Wolf getting into the wild charge, locking him down. A good Spirit of Misery. The disengage. Boxy gets a 3-man implosion, but what is it gonna be for? No one's there to follow it up. Cambodia decide to use that distraction to go and clear out the Lord, and again for Thailand, they get some kills, but they're unable to get any objectives.
Yeah, 0, right? And it's so unfortunate because the fact is, Cambodia was able to control that tempo so well in these team fights. The fact that they have a lot of utility given to them, but they've been making a lot of mistakes as well, and Thailand have been able to capitalize. So far, the Grok has been doing great, but are they going for the end here? Are they looking for an end? 2 members are down, but it looks like they don't go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like they're just going to go for the base turret. I don't think they could have forced that. There were some major members coming back up in like 5-6 seconds, so Cambodia are still able to defend, but take a look at the objective battle. Thailand this time just winning by a whole lot. They have 7 turrets, so Cambodia's 3. Cambodia have only been able to get tier 1s the whole game.
And right now, Thailand is holding a 2k gold lead. And if we take a look at the damage dealt earlier on, again, the Valentina just has so much value and very interesting. From the side of Cambodia, it's actually the Terizla who's been able to ramp up in that damage. A lot more than the Moskov so far, and a lot more than the Yves as well, despite the real world manipulation, the constant damage, magic damage coming through. It's still the Terizla that holds that #1 position in that damage dealt.
And it's concerning because for the Terizla, for the most part, right, Felix won't really be able to deal damage to the back line. So that 66,000 damage, it's been mostly to all the frontliners from Thailand, and they're very happy taking that damage, and that's why they've been able to win out these team fights, Thailand. They've been able to allocate their damage properly into the Moskov, into the Yves, Ra and Run. They gotta be way more clinical here in their positioning and in their spacing, because so far Thailand have always been able to catch them. Even Tuzu, technically. Tuzu has been caught off 5 times. Boxy again, gonna be caught in the tough spot. Felix able to disengage for the team. That's a wild charge. Only onto Felix. A very interesting go, and now final flow onto the back line. Able to get shoved back. Run the King gonna be caught, and he jumps forward. Implosion onto 3 members. Run the King still able to survive with one in nature, but finally gets taken down by Lord Flash with that light compounds. 33 traded for Run the King, as now they look for to go for more. That's gonna be the cancel on Winter Crown as well. Boxy still able to survive for a bit. A penalty zone stolen away by Mizzy Ming to lock him down, but only gets the immortality from Boxy. Now it's gonna be Felix around, caught in the midst of it all, still tanking a whole lot of damage as Ra and Tuzu look for some damage back onto Izzy. They get a trade back. Lord Flash jumping with like pounds, and Tuzu will be able to go back with the quad channel to take him out. A good shutdown. Lord Flash just a millisecond away from that immortality, as the immortality for now will be popped. Mizzy making the wild charge, but Ra is able to space out of it. Flickers out the safety. One last hit onto Nile should do it. Let's see if he can get it done. Slowly but surely taking down the glowing wand, but Nile is still able to survive. Now Tuzu with a shadow kill onto Mizzy Ming. That Sky Piercer with the execute, and 33 is gonna be next to the chopping block. Goes for eye for an eye. Tuzu's waiting for the cooldown for the quad shadow. He gets the kill before he dies, and it turns out to be a win for Cambodia.
And despite the shutdown coming through, the shutdown falls for Nile, their roamer. So not even going on to Lord Flash, and that does give Cambodia a huge advantage in this 18th minute of the game. And you can see that they're going in for the Blitz for the Lord. Nile looking for that proper positioning, looking for that proper moment to get into that momentum, to look in for, of course, but what? Conceal as well as Implosion utilized for Lord Flash there.
Okay, with a wild charge too by Nile. Gets 3 members knocked up. Lord Flash goes for the like and pounds. An interesting move. Spirit of Misery pinning him down. The immortality. Lord Flash. What? It seemed like Nile wanted to disengage, and Lord Flash went in a bit too aggressively. They almost were able to blitz it, like you said, Eterna, but now it doesn't seem like they even need to blitz it. They got a retreat advantage.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm Felix though, still looking to go in for the contest. 33 gonna do as well, but look at that damage onto Felix. Is this a problem?
Oh, 33 gonna go for it. Eye for an eye as well. Run the king gonna chase him. Now Winter Crown as well. It's gonna be Eye taken out of the back line with Rod doing the same thing there as Niall tries his best to go for the steal on the Lord, but it will not happen. They lose 4 members by desperately trying to go for the steal on the Lord, and now only Lord Flash and Mizzy Mink are left to defend against an evolved Lord.
Look at the timers, Miracle. Look at the timers. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 members are up against 6. With the Lord marching down in the mid lane. Mizzy Mink as well as Lord Flash, they're the only ones left. And look at the stage. Look at the damage as it looks like they want to go for a close.
Boxy with the implosion straight into the penalty zone and the execute. In prime Kamai fashion, they get it done. And they'll be able to take a clean sweep against Thailand. I believe putting them a bit closer to qualifying to the playoffs.
Because earlier on, they were actually tied in. If you guys take a look at IESF.gg and you guys take a look at the standings for Group 1, you will see that Cambodia and Thailand, they're both at 6 points. They're actually tied in with Myanmar as well. So the top 3 are tied in. But man, with Cambodia picking up that 2-0, that should propel them in the points and give them a lot more say to get to the playoffs, a lot more chance and opportunity to get to that playoffs to eventually make their way to WEC in Riyadh in the later portion of this year. But again, right, there were just so many mistakes that were happening back and forth from both of these teams, because initially Cambodia, with that much of a lead, they should have been able to close it as fast as possible. But how long did that game go? It went over 17 minutes. I don't know what the last one was. I hope we get 19, a little bit of a replay. 19 minutes. I don't think it should have gone to that 19-minute mark.
I said it right as the crystal was popped there, right as they got the base in prime Khmer fashion. That's just the Cambodian way to play the game, right? It could be a stomp, but it could also be fun. Exactly. Which one do you want?
I mean, we want action and we want entertainment, and that's exactly what we got as we take a look at the highlights, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 2. And again, right from the early stage of the game, that early portion of the game with Tuzu just building up that snowball, building up that gold lead, and building up that EXP lead, you could say that most of the objectives was completely controlled by Cambodia. One of the main things that needs to be highlighted is honestly the Benedetta. Sure, he didn't get as much success in these team fights, but understand that despite the control that Cambodia had, the fact that 33 on the Benedetta kept pushing those far lanes and kept utilizing and was super objective centered, it caused a lot of problems for Cambodia, and that initial plan that they had was brought into chaos with how much that she was pushing.
There's so much pressure from Cambodia all the way from the start, and we were talking about how it was so good for them, but man, there was some of these moments where, Ron, did you really need the third? I mean, like another kill onto Niall there. That was a roamer, right? And they ended up having to trade again in the bottom lane as well. Some of these, overextensions definitely need to be adjusted by them if they want to go and perform better in the playoffs. There's some good, some good matches, some good skirmishes here from Thailand as well, able to just outplay Cambodia, and I think this was one of them where 33 actually just got out, used the Petrify really well, and then Lord Flash to control the fight. But as we saw some overextensions from Cambodia, we also see the same thing for Thailand. I think for 33 going in a bit too aggressive. Lord Flash as well, over chasing, because I think in that moment they would have been able to go straight for the turtle had they just backed off after that solid win that they got. But unfortunately, they went in for the fight. They wanted to get more. They were a bit greedy there, and they got punished for it. But all throughout, I think it's kind of the same, a little bit of a deja vu to game number 1, where Thailand were just able to keep on fighting, and for some reason, their synergy is amazing too, right? They're always able to get these big combos in together. They're able to go back and forth and make it a bit more 50-50 than it should be. Again, in these fights, it was always Cambodia with a gold lead. You can always see up top in the charts, they always have a 2,000, 3,000. At the start, it was 4,000 gold lead, but I don't know, man. Thailand just played it well.
But eventually, Thailand picked up the gold lead. So it's actually quite interesting. And honestly, I'm a huge fan of Niall, by the way, because with Cambodia holding on, see again, right? Despite Cambodia holding on to so much in terms of objectives, in terms of turrets, in terms of whatever, right? In that particular game, Nile, the fact that he was able to get a lot of these combos in on the Grok was of big value to his team, actually, time and time again.
For sure. I think, these wild charges have been able to turn the tides of these fights. And this is another example of that.
There you go.
Catching Run the King together with Boxy. Like, Boxy being there makes sense. He's a roamer. But Run the King, Abyss walking in front to go for orange buff? Yeah, it's a bit sus. And here we see that as well from Tuzu, overextending way too much. And this could have been bad. It actually did end up being bad because they were able to take the Lord and they were able to take the base turret, I believe, after this play. But for some reason here, Thailand, every single time they go for the Lord, every single time they secure it, they always end up losing 1 or 2 members. And that's why they haven't been able to fully utilize the Lords that they take. They always get traded back. And that's how Cambodia were actually able to prolong the game and to minimize the potential of those Lord pushes from Thailand.
It feels like both of these teams are very trigger happy, right? Like, despite being at a disadvantage when it comes down to a team fight, if they get re-engaged, they're like, okay, let's go. You want to fight? Let's go. And so you can see both of these teams actually catching each other off guard. And so it was quite a ping pong match, especially coming to the later stage of the game. You can even see here, you think initially it was a good moment for Thailand in this particular team fight, but Cambodia re-engages, but then Thailand re-engages again despite them being at a disadvantage. See, again, like Lord Flash jumping back in and he gets taken out. It's the re-engage battle from both of these teams because, back at its very core, both of these teams, they love the brawls, they love the team fights, and they love the action.
Yeah, and this definitely showed it as well, right? The fact that Suzu was able to get the kill before he died. You have to give the benefit over to the Sky Piercer for that one, because I think if he didn't have the Sky Piercer, 33 would have been able to survive just with a little bit of HP. But in this final skirmish, man, it was a nice try by 33. He really tried to take the Lord, steal it away, maybe get some damage in. But in the end, they just had more members to play with, way more resources, and were eventually able to end the game. This was a good engage again by Boxy, though. We were seeing that a whole lot in this game, but towards the later stage, I think Thailand were able to adjust properly to Boxy's engages because these implosions never really connected onto more than 2 members. In the final fight, it's unfortunate, they didn't really expect that. Felix gets the MVP.
Beautiful. 9-3-15 KDA. We saw the impact that Felix was able to have in the first game when he picked up the Yuzong, but coming into a different pick, an entirely different pick onto the Charizla, we saw the impact that he was able to have as well, right? A lot of follow-ups from the Charizla after the implosions that are happening from the Tigreal just really put a spotlight onto him. And at the early stage of the game, he actually even went in for a 1v1 against the Benedetta and won, right? And the damage dealt, we saw time and time again, Charizla #1 with like 60k worth of damage, and it's all thanks to him and of course his intelligent itemization. He actually even went in for the Queen's Wings at the later portion of the game.
Yeah, it was well played by him, man, for Felix as the initiator. And now we get to really see why the Charizla is super prio. With the War Axe, full defense builds right after that. Usually we see the Fury Hammer, right? So you're still going to be very tanky. You go and rely on the Brave Smite. But now that we have the War Axe, we're seeing more and more XP laners like the Charizla go for Impure Rage instead of the Brave Smite because they already have the sustain built in for the War Axe. They would much rather get the Impure Rage to get more mana as the fight goes on. They'll have that additional sustain when it comes to mana already built in. Bloodless Axe with the War Axe, so get the best of both worlds, Eterna.
For sure, and I hope we get the best of both worlds when we take a talk with the players. And I'm wondering, who will we be seeing? Do you think?
And who's it gonna be?
Who's it gonna be? Do you have any, ideas?
I don't know, man. Maybe Tuzo, maybe Felix.
I hope we get to talk to boxing. I think I'm a big fan now of his Tigreal. Why are you smiling like that?
Nah, I don't know. There's something with you and roamers, man.
No. But it looks like it might be Paragon, actually. Ring, ring, ring. Hi, how are you?
Oh, hello, Bako. Hello, Atanan.
Hang on, let me readjust my audio real quick. All right. Paragon, congratulations for that 2-0, of course. How do you feel about that game? How did you feel about your team winning?
Yeah, today we feel very excited that we're gonna pass the group stage and we're gonna face, I think, Malaysia because they top one in group. So we number 2 gonna face number 1. Yes.
Oh, okay. So next up, Malaysia, Mirko.
Yeah, Malaysia is definitely, a tough opponent later, so I want to ask you that later. But firstly, I want to ask, Paragon, you're a substitute for the Rome position, yeah? And I just want to ask, we have been seeing Cambodia swap here and there from the jungle as well. Up against Myanmar, it was Lucas. This time it was Tuzu. What was the plan here? Why did you play Tuzu over Lucas? And who's the main jungler for the team?
Actually, they both can play as the main jungler because we want to give them an opportunity to play for national team. So Tusu also can play as a main jungler. Lucas also can play as a main jungler. They both can play together.
Okay, my next question is...
Can play.
Okay, so it's interchangeable, Mirko, their lineup. So it makes them that much more flexible, right? Their opponent, they're going to keep on guessing as to who plays next. But when are you going to be playing, Paragon? We're excited to see you hop in. Do you think we'll see you in the next match?
I don't know, but we'll see later, maybe, or not.
Man of secrets. I like that.
Yeah.
They gotta stay secretive, right? Especially later on. But I want to know your thoughts here, Paragon. In the group stages, or no, just the Asian qualifiers in general for Southeast Asia, who do you think is the strongest opponent that you will get to face later on? Because we have Myanmar, we got Malaysia, Indonesia, even Thailand earlier were really, really good. Who do you think is the strongest?
For me, I think Malaysia and Indonesia. As we can see, Malaysia, they beat Indonesia 2-0, and we're gonna face them in the next playoff. And I think it's a very tough opponent for us, Malaysia and Indonesia.
Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, I'm not gonna ask him to choose between both, right? Because I mean, that was a 2-0 for Malaysia. But Mirko, do you have another question for him?
Honestly, I want to know, right? Because against Myanmar, at least game number 2, when you guys were able to get the dub, it was a dominant run. But here against Thailand, both games went the distance. It went to over 20 minutes for game number 1. Game number 2, it was also quite long. Is that just the Cambodian way to play the game? You want to just go for these team fights? Or do you think, okay, this is just against Thailand. Next fight, be more disciplined. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, it's not goes as a plan. As we think that we can end that game so fast, but we fell at mid and late game that make the game it so more slow. But I think in that next game we will improve and fix all our mistakes, and we hope that we can end the game faster than.
All right.
Great
we
stuff.
also hope, just continuous success on your journey here at IESF. Good luck for your next match. And yeah, we'll see you moving forward and hope we get to see you in your next match with Team Cambodia. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much and congratulations once again. Bye-bye, Paragon.
There you have it, man. Paragon with some solid answers here, man. It would be really cool to get some of the other members later on if they do get another win. Obviously, they will be qualifying into the playoffs, I believe, with this win. But it seems like they're still going to have to wait, Eterna, a bit. Because if Thailand actually win out against Myanmar, there is a possibility that it could be like a 3-way tie. I think that might be the case. I think that...
Wait, really?
Yeah, possible.
Well, if you guys are, anticipating, what will happen next, you guys can, keep updated on isf.gg because everything is updated there. We have the standings, we have the rankings, we have perhaps even the groupings later on for the playoffs. But this is going to be our next match, ladies and gentlemen, Myanmar and Thailand. And remember, earlier on, all three of these regions were actually tied in, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Thailand, but it looks like Myanmar and Cambodia are now both at 9 points. So if Thailand can actually win this one against Myanmar, that will also propel them further up into the standings. And like you mentioned in the early part, right, it could be a three-way tie.
There's a big possibility that actually happens here, Eterna. We'll have to see if Myanmar can get it done, because even Cambodia were struggling. And if we saw, if you guys watched yesterday, Myanmar versus Cambodia, the opening match of the day, it was a really close battle.
Best
especially
of three,
in game
full,
number 3.
right?
Yeah, a full best of 3. We don't get to see that a lot. We haven't seen that at all today. So unfortunate, but hopefully this next match, hopefully Thailand can pull off a great fight. They're fighting against the odds, definitely, because they just lost as well. So they don't have the momentum by their side. I still think though that they will be able to pull off a good fight, looking at how they performed against Cambodia.
So before we get into the next match of the day, ladies and gentlemen, our next best of 3 between both these regions, we are going to go on a short break. There is going to be a little bit of trade with the caster, so Miracle, we'll see you later on. But thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned, and we'll see you after the break. Bye-bye.